Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. We're just going to give ourselves a couple more minutes as people kind of filter in, and then we'll get started probably right around 4:05.
Hello.
Hello. Uh, for those of us just joining, we're going to give ourselves a couple more minutes, let people filter in, and we'll get started right around 4:05.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, can you hear me now? Wonderful.
All right, I will get started here right in a second. First of all, welcome everyone to our quick little intro, and we'll get right into learning a little bit about EBT at farmers markets here in the city of Philadelphia. Uh, in case you don't know where you are, welcome. My name is Lou. I am with the Department of Public Health in the city of Philadelphia, and I help organize to support farmers markets here in the city. And today we have brought to you a little Zoom meeting to talk about EBT at farmers markets, both for those who are currently using EBT at their markets, those who are interested in having EBT join the payment methods that they offer at their market, or people who are just interested in learning a little bit more about the process and the system of exactly how you go about utilizing EBT as a payment method. So first, just a little bit of background. Obviously, if you're here, we hope we have a little bit of understanding about farmers markets, but if you're just getting introduced to this world, farmers markets are an important part of the Philadelphia food ecosystem to offer a lot of different opportunities for people to have access to fresh fruit and produce that they might not have from other sources, as well as being important cornerstones of communities. And a part of that is we want to have farmers markets to be available to as many people as possible in forms that meet them where they are and their needs. So if you have any questions or looking for any resources, myself and also Jennifer Arnuduk, who's also on this call today, are great resources for any follow-up questions after this presentation, as well as our wonderful speaker, Whitney Butler. So there's a lot of great resources to reach out to if you have any questions or follow-ups afterwards, including all of the great sources on the screen here, as well as the Farmers Market Finder, which is a great little application that has a list of farmers markets in the city, their locations, and the times of operations. So if you haven't already checked that out, I highly encourage you to do so. And we also just wanted to do a little highlight and shout out to the USDA Farmers Market Promotion Program grant that we are like right now in the process of pushing out. I don't know if any of you got the opportunity to see the billboards that were out across the city earlier this summer, as well as the posters and advertisements that are on Indigo bus stations, as well as SEPTA bus terminals right now. But if you haven't gotten a chance to, they are absolutely wonderful. Here are some photos of these. They come from a grant that we, along with the Food Trust, along with Parks and Recreation, are helping to promote farmers markets across the city. And they are some absolutely gorgeous designs, and they all point towards a great website, phillyfarmersmarket.org, that supports markets all across the city. And without further ado, I want to give a warm welcome to Whitney Butler from MarketLink, who will talk to us today a little bit about EBT and farmers markets. Whitney, take it away.
Thank you so much, Lou. Hi, everybody. I'm Whitney, and I am MarketLink's regional representative for the Mountain Plains, Midwest, and Mid-Atlantic states, but I'm based in Colorado. Thank you all so much for being here with me today. Let me go ahead and get my presentation up, and we'll jump on in. All right. Can you see presentation okay? Wonderful. Okay. All right. So once again, thank you for your time, and a big thank you to Lou and the Philadelphia Department of Public Health for hosting me today. We're going to go through a lot of information, so I'm sure some of it you're familiar with, but hopefully you'll find some useful information. And as you come up with questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll work through them at the end. I'll take a break after some of the more dense subjects just to check in and see if we need to dive deeper on anything. Let's go ahead and jump on in. All right, so this is the roadmap for today. First, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what is this MarketLink program and the 2 grant programs that we administer specifically for farmers and farmers markets. And then I'll shift gears and just give a brief overview of the SNAP program, and then we'll focus in on how it's managed at farmers markets. And then towards the end, I'll get into the steps of the MarketLink grant process, which is going to involve a deep dive on that SNAP retailer application, which is required for any market or business that wants to accept SNAP card benefits. And at the very end, I'll wrap things up with a summary of the SNAP card processing equipment that our grant program provides. All right, so what is MarketLink? MarketLink is it's a program that was first created in 2013 by a 501c3 nonprofit called the NAFMNP. It's a mouthful, the National Association of Farmers Market Nutrition Programs. But MarketLink was created in response to a USDA grant opportunity known as the SNAP Equipment Grant for Farmers and Farmers Markets. Since then, we've become a nationally recognized program that helps farmers and farmers markets increase their sales and expand their customer base through SNAP. We oversee 2 grants, and those are made possible by a few partnerships listed here. So for both grants, we're partnered with Novodia Group, or NDG. Those are the creators of the Total Pay Go point of sale app. And that's an app. It works similar to Square, but it can be used to accept SNAP. And in some states, it's being used for electronic farmers market nutrition programs, as well as the EHIP incentive programs. And then we also oversee the SNAP Online grant. And for that one, we're partnered with Grown By, which is an e-commerce platform where farmers can create an online store. And through the grant, they're able to accept SNAP sales online. And WorldPay is our partner as well, because that's who's actually processing SNAP behind the scenes on Grown By. All right, so this is kind of listing out our grants and services. And before we go any further, a quick note on abbreviation. You're going to see sprinkled throughout the presentation DMF, and that means Direct Marketing Farmer. And that's probably what you're thinking of when you think farmer. Very important. It's a farmer whose most of their sales are of their own products, as opposed to buying in a lot of their products from other producers and reselling. So direct marketing farmers, and FM is farmers markets. So on the far left, is a recap of our SNAP equipment grant, which is what I'm focusing on because it's available to both farmers and farmers markets. So for that grant, we provide free technical assistance on that SNAP retailer application. And then we can provide at least 1 year of free SNAP card processing equipment. And then next, an overview of that SNAP Online grant. That's only available to the direct marketing farmers. But for that, we offer free technical assistance with the SNAP Online authorization process. And then once you're through that, the grant will pay for the costs of for 1 year to accept SNAP through your online store on Grown By. And then all this over here on the right, what we're doing is we've been working with state agencies to help with this modernization of the WIC and seniors farmers market nutrition programs that have been a paper-based system and now are moving electronic. So with Novodia Group, we've developed this total pay incentive management system, which allows basically electronic WIC and seniors farmers market nutrition programs to also be accepted through that Total Pay Go app. That gets pretty far into the weeds. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, we won't go down that detour. Okay, and then just a quick look at our impacts over the last decade. About $104.7 million in SNAP sales have been processed by MarketLink grantees since 2013. And we're seeing this program grow quickly in the last couple of years, especially. So in 2022, there was about $35.5 million in SNAP sales processed by our grantees, and that was a 37% increase from the year before. And last fact here, in 2022, almost half of all SNAP sales processed by farmers and farmers markets went through the MarketLink grant program. All right, so as I said, I imagine a lot of you are familiar with the SNAP program, but just to make sure we're on the same page, just a quick little recap here. So SNAP is sometimes referred to as EBT, was formerly known as the food stamp program. It stands for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And the recipients qualify based on income and household factors. but the majority of SNAP participants are low-income working families or households with elderly and or disabled members. And to give you an idea, in the 2022 fiscal year, there's about 41.5 million Americans receiving SNAP benefits. That's about 13% of our population. And in Pennsylvania, it's a little bit higher. It was about 14% of your population, which is 1 in 7 people. And on average, they receive about $182 per household member per month. Now on the right, you can see these are all examples of SNAP cards. Each state brands them differently. And you might be familiar with up here, this is what I found for what the card looks like there in Pennsylvania, and it's been branded as the Access program. But keep in mind, since SNAP is a federal program, if a business or market is authorized to accept SNAP, you can accept cards from all states. No extra steps involved. Okay, what foods can be purchased with SNAP? SNAP is very broad. It can be used for a lot of what's available at a farmer's market. This includes fruits, veggies, meat, fish, poultry, dairy, eggs, baked goods, processed foods, meaning things like pickled vegetables, jams, honey, non-alcoholic beverages, also herbs and plants and seeds that will produce food. So what's not eligible is sometimes easier to understand. That's going to be non-food products, medicine or health-related supplements, alcoholic beverages, of course, and then hot foods or foods meant to be eaten on site. Okay, so when and where can you accept SNAP cards? It seems like a simple question, but of course, since it's a government program, there are regulations around this. And this is going to depend on your business type. So when a business or market does that SNAP retailer application, the USDA has them choose their business type. The USDA has very rigid definitions of these business types, and we do spend a great deal of time helping people understand which category they fit into. And this is important because it's going to determine when and where you can accept SNAP cards. So pretty straightforward are retail stores and farmers markets. They are limited to accepting SNAP at their physical location during the business hours listed on their SNAP application. We do get a lot of questions about what if I have a seasonal alternate location for my farmers market? As long as it's the same organization managing the market, then it's okay to have a winter and summer seasonal difference in location. A little more complicated are delivery routes, and that's the category that especially mobile markets fall into. They are limited to accepting SNAP at the locations and times on file with the USDA. The direct marketing farmers, they do have a lot more flexibility. So they have the unique ability to accept SNAP whenever and wherever they sell. So this can be at farmers markets, roadside stands, or if they have a store either on or off the farm. You can accept SNAP for CSA shares. It's a little trickier, but many farms successfully do that. And they can accept SNAP at multiple locations at the same time. So they have a lot of freedom of movement. Okay, so shifting over to farmers markets specifically. There's basically 2 systems out there that you might encounter, and I'll give an overview of each. This slide describes the vendor level system, sometimes called the decentralized system. And this is more common at volunteer run or smaller farmers markets that might not have the resources to manage a SNAP program on behalf of the whole market. So in this situation, it's up to the vendors. Any vendor that wants to accept SNAP will do that SNAP retailer application. And once they're approved, they'll get their own equipment to accept those SNAP cards with. That equipment will be connected to the vendor's bank account, and they can only accept SNAP for items that they're selling, through their business at their booth. So in this situation, it's really important for vendors to budget for signage and marketing materials to let SNAP customers know that you're accepting SNAP at your booth at that market. This sometimes isn't ideal because it's more expensive and burdensome on the vendors. Also, some vendors won't qualify to accept SNAP independently because their business won't meet what's called the staple food stocking requirements. And I'll get into that once I get to the SNAP retailer application part. But for example, common businesses that won't meet those requirements are businesses that sell mostly honey or maple syrup or herbs. And then one other drawback is it can be confusing for SNAP customers, which booths accept SNAP, and it just might not be as appealing to go to the farmer's market if they can only use their card at a few booths. Okay, and then the other system out there called the market level, or sometimes the centralized system. And in this scenario, it's the organization that runs the market, or sometimes what's called a fiscal sponsor that will do that USDA SNAP retailer application and then manage it on behalf of all the vendors. Now, when I say fiscal sponsor, that's like an outside organization. It's often a nonprofit that offers to manage the SNAP program on behalf of the market. So in this situation, there's going to be one central set of SNAP point of sale equipment used for the entire market. And that equipment is connected to a bank account that's used for the market, ideally just for SNAP sales at the market. So all SNAP deposits will go into that bank account and then vendors are reimbursed later. To manage this, markets use either tokens or scrip, and scrip just meaning something representing those SNAP dollars at the market. As you can imagine, this requires a lot more resources on behalf of the market. They're going to need all the vendors willing to participate, staff or volunteers to operate that SNAP equipment, manage the tokens or scrip, keep up with the bookkeeping, and then reimbursing the vendors. They're also going to need to budget for the equipment costs, buying those tokens in the first place, setting aside time for vendor training, and then doing marketing and outreach. But a few benefits to this situation is that it takes the cost burden off the shoulders of the vendors, and it's easier for SNAP customers because they know they can go shop the entire market with their SNAP benefits. But all that being said, I'm just putting information out there. There's, of course, a lot of factors involved in deciding what's going to work best for your farmer's market. A lot of times there might be like an incentive program such as Double Up Food Bucks or EHIP that kind of steers you one way or another too. So there's not necessarily a right way. There's just, figuring out what makes sense for you. All right, and then just to kind of wrap up that centralized market level system and how they manage SNAP. This is just a rundown of how those tokens or scrip are used at the market. So SNAP customers will be directed to a booth where the market staff will have that SNAP point of sale equipment, as well as the tokens or scrip. Customers are going to ask for a certain amount off of their card, and the staff will use the equipment to run the sale. To complete the transaction, the customer will be asked to enter in their 4-digit PIN code. So that kind of acts as their signature. If they have enough funds, then the sale will go through and the market staff will give them tokens or scrip in exchange. And then the customers are free to go shopping throughout the market. Vendors will just need to know what items they can accept those tokens for and what they can't. And then at the end of the market, vendors will return tokens spent with them back to market staff. Now, it depends on the market. Sometimes they're reimbursed like immediately at the market, but more commonly, markets will kind of batch payments and reimburse vendors monthly, maybe at the end of the season. And then on the right here, you can see there's the literal tokens, or here in Colorado, they print off these SNAP coupons to use. Okay. So no matter what system is involved, we've just witnessed over the years that crucial to the success of a farm or market when they're starting out with accepting SNAP is doing promotion and outreach. So advertising to your community that you accept SNAP and when and where people can shop with you. There's the assumption out there that when a business or market gets authorized to accept SNAP, that the federal government directly notifies SNAP recipients in that area. This isn't true. Most of that education and connection comes from, local government or local organizations working to address food access. Historically, this is not something MarketLink has been funded to help with, but we did recently just get additional funding from the USDA to help develop more outreach materials and partnerships so that we can help our grantees succeed. But the basic ideas that we give grantees is we provide them with, we accept SNAP signage and social media material. And then we encourage them to forge partnerships with community organizations, such as Health and Human Services, SNAP Ed, local WIC agencies, food banks, if there's an incentive program available. These organizations are likely already connected to SNAP customers, so they may be able to help bridge that gap. They can advise on appropriate languages to use in your marketing materials. They might even help you with distributing that directly to SNAP customers. And another very important role that these organizations can play is educating SNAP customers the nutritional value of spending their benefits on fresh and local food, as well as how to shop at the farmer's market and what to do with stuff you buy at the farmer's market. There's very much a need for education on all ends to make this connection. All right, so we're about to dive into the MarketLink grant process, which involves getting into that retailer application and the equipment. Do we have any questions before we jump into this next section? Let's see, double check the chat.
One question in the chat.
How about non-farm businesses, bakeries, hummus, etc.? That is a great question, and I'm guessing you're wondering if they're eligible to accept SNAP as well as for the MarketLink grant program. Let's see. Yeah, Kat, feel free to expand if you'd like. Well, as far as, yeah, if they're eligible, oh, can they accept at their own booth? Okay. That is, yeah, good question. And I will circle back to that when I get to those stocking requirements, because that is where those businesses tend to fall between the cracks and may not be able to accept SNAP if if each booth is doing it individually. So hang on to that. We will get back to it. Okay. So these are the basic steps in our SNAP equipment grant process. Step one is just to go to our website, marketlink.org, and apply for the grant. It's a short and easy application, and we'll email you within 1 to 2 business days to confirm that you're eligible and then provide next step instructions. What kind of instructions you're going to get will depend on if your farm or market is already authorized to accept SNAP. So that's getting into number 2 here. People fall in 3 categories at this point. Either you'll tell us that you still need to get authorized to accept SNAP, so we'll email you information on how we can help. Or you'll tell us that you've already submitted the application, you just haven't heard back from the USDA yet. If that's the case, we'll email you our tips on getting through and offer our help if you need it. Or the last bucket is that you've already been authorized to accept SNAP, which means that you can move on to step 3, which is setting up an account with our equipment partners, Total Pay Go. And I just want to be clear too, a farm or market can get our help with that SNAP retailer application, and they're not obligated to use the equipment provided by our grant. So at that point, they're free to go with another equipment provider if they prefer. But if they do move forward with MarketLink, your last step then will be just receiving and setting up your equipment, which is going to be downloading the app and just familiarizing yourself with it. Okay, so looking at that step one, when you fill out the MarketLink grant application, these are what make you eligible for our grant. Now, since this is funded by the USDA, Food and Nutrition Services, these are the limitations or guidelines that we have to work by. So to be eligible for the grant, you have to meet the USDA's definition of either a direct marketing farmer, which they define as an individual producer of agricultural products that sell directly to the public. And importantly, at least 50% of your profits must be for your own products. Or also eligible are farmers markets, meeting this definition, 2 or more farmer producers selling their agricultural products directly to the public at a fixed location. So most commonly, the businesses that apply for our grant and don't qualify, unfortunately, are going to be mobile markets. They don't meet that farmers market definition, so the USDA considers them a delivery route. And also aggregators. If you're mostly buying and reselling products from farmers, you're not going to meet that direct marketing farmer category. And this is a big point of confusion, so we are here to help. If we see people apply that don't quite meet, these definitions, we'll help them figure out what business type the USDA would consider them, make sure they can actually meet the SNAP retailer requirements before they even move forward with the application. And then if they do look like they'll be a good fit, we'll give them the basic guidance on how to apply on their own. Otherwise, the other disqualify here is if you have functioning equipment that you receive from a state program. So some states provide free equipment, you just can't be using their equipment and the MarketLink equipment at the same time. And yes, circling back to Kat's question, at least in this regard, this is where a business that sold mostly hummus is not going to fall into either of those categories. Since hummus is technically a prepared meal or prepared food, it would probably be a stretch to even that they could qualify on their own. And as far as I think baked good was the other example, bakeries are kind of tricky. If it's baked goods like bread, like basically healthy things, then they have a better chance than if it's mostly sweets. If it's mostly sweets, those aren't considered a staple food. So we'll circle back though with the USDA requirements on that. Okay, so this is the biggest obstacle in getting authorized as a SNAP retailer. You might have already been through this, or somebody else did it for your market and you're just kind of maintaining your SNAP permit. So if that's the case, bear with us. So yes, as any business or market that wants to accept SNAP has to do this application. These are the important things to consider before even jumping in. First, here's these stocking requirements I keep referring to. So these are in place to ensure that the business or market offers enough staple foods for SNAP customers. You'll see the staple foods are in a basic sense listed out here. And the USDA requires that you meet either criterion A or criterion B. The language is a little wonky for criterion A. There's a more detailed explanation on the USDA's website, but they're requiring that you have 3 stocking units of 3 different varieties of each staple food category. Now this criterion A mostly applies to retail stores, so we tend to focus on criterion B because this is where most farms and farmers markets qualify, which is that at least 50% of total sales are from the sale of staple foods. Now, important note here for farmers markets, the USDA knows that most farmers markets are not collecting sales information from their vendors. They totally expect that you are estimating this sales information. Mostly, they're just trying to weed out flea markets that are selling mostly non-food items. So as long as you have a pretty robust amount of vendors selling staple foods, then this isn't something to worry about. They know that it fluctuates throughout the season and year to year for farmers markets. And this is also where, yeah, some of those businesses aren't going to qualify because they don't consider things like honey, herbs, maple syrup, staple foods. So this is where those businesses aren't going to meet those stocking requirements, and they don't benefit from going to a market where each vendor independently accepts SNAP. They're better off trying to find a market where the market manages SNAP on behalf of everyone. It's kind of a catch-22 that people get stuck in here. Okay. That all being said, then if you can meet those stocking requirements, I know it sounds simple, but if you can gather as much information as possible before starting the process, that helps tremendously. This is just the basic information they're going to ask for. If you apply for the grant, we give you a much more detailed list. What is required will depend on your business type, what kind of a legal organization you are, if you are legally organized. Okay. Also very important before diving in is determining who's going to be the responsible official. Now this is listed on the SNAP application, and as the name suggests, they are responsible for making sure the business or market follows SNAP regulations. Most importantly, just that you're only accepting SNAP for SNAP eligible items. The USDA has rules on who must be listed as the responsible official, and it depends largely on what kind of legal entity is running the farm or market. Now for farms, it's usually straightforward because if it's an LLC, partnership, or sole proprietorship, all owners of the business will need to be listed as responsible officials. For farmers markets, it depends on if there's an organization or fiscal sponsor involved. If it's a volunteer-run farmers market, then you actually apply as a sole proprietor, and an individual will be taking on that role of responsible official. That's maybe not an ideal situation because there tends to be fast turnover in that role, but it is fairly common for smaller farmers markets. If the market's being run by a nonprofit, it's going to need to be a director, board member, corporate officer with authority to sign legal documents. And if it's a government entity, for example, like the town is managing the farmers market, then it's going to need to be an employee of that government agency. So this person is also the only person the USDA will speak to regarding your SNAP application, and once you're approved, your SNAP permit. And it's very difficult to update this person for farmers markets. So for this reason, we tend to recommend that it's someone who's maybe going to have more permanence in their role with the farmers market. We tend not to recommend that it's market managers, just because that role has high turnover. And if someone leaves their position, it can really leave the market in a pickle if they can't talk to the USDA about their SNAP permit. It can really help, though, to use organizational contact information instead of personal contact information, just in case they do leave their role. As far as the information required, responsible officials will need to provide their name, address, date of birth, and social security number. The only exemption to that social security number requirement is if it's a 501c3 or a government-run farmers market. And lastly, I know it just takes up a little bit of space here, but I can't emphasize enough how important timing is. This whole process can take anywhere between 1 to 3 months, depending on how organized you are. And the best time to do this is in the fall or winter, because once spring and summer roll around, the USDA and MarketLink get swamped with applications. So it can take a lot longer to get through the process, and there's a much higher chance of hiccups if you're applying between March and August. Okay, and then this is just kind of an overview of the application process itself. And I just want to throw out, what we know about this process. We've largely learned from the sheer volume of applications that we've submitted. We were also very fortunate to have Debbie Crosby join our team a few years ago. She retired from FNS, where she worked as a program specialist processing applications for many years. So she demystified a lot of this for us. But FNS policy is constantly changing and it's not publicly available. So what I'm sharing is not set in stone, but it is gotten us through many applications, and we can help you avoid the most common potholes. So first of all, MarketLink offers free technical assistance with this application for direct marketing farmers and farmers markets. We can either submit the application on your behalf, which is usually the quicker way to get approved. Or if you prefer, you can submit it on your own using our step-by-step guide, and you're welcome to reach out if you have any trouble along the way. Number two, so whichever route you choose, it's an online application. So if you have us submit on your behalf, you're gonna gather the information that we ask you to, and then book a phone appointment. During the call, we'll fill it out for you. If you do it on your own, you have to first create an account on the USDA's website, then you can fill out the form. Number three, so after you fill out that online form, the USDA requires some supporting documents to be uploaded to their website. What's required depends on how your business or market is legally organized. But in general, each responsible official is going to need to provide a copy of their photo ID and a copy of their social security card. Again, the only exemption to that social security card requirement is 501c3s or government-run farmers markets. There's going to be a signature page for each responsible official. They'll ask for a business license. If your state or local authorities require you to have one, you should upload it. In our experience, most farms don't have one, and it's fine not to provide one. But if it is an LLC or partnership run farmers market, they will require some kind of business license. If it's a 501c3, they're gonna ask for your IRS determination letter. And if it's a government entity, they'll ask for a copy of the W-9. So number four, once all those documents are uploaded, the USDA will actually start reviewing your application. At this point, they may ask for additional information. So it's super important that you're keeping a close eye on your email and mailbox, because there's always a deadline to respond. And if you miss it, they withdraw your application and you have to start over. Number five, it's also very important to keep checking the status of your application online, as well as calling the USDA periodically to check in, just to make sure it doesn't slip through the cracks. They have an automated system, so it's good to keep checking in. And this is where, if you have MarketLink submit the application, we'll take care of that for you, so we can make sure it doesn't get lost because of that. But fingers crossed, you'll make it to number 6, which is getting approved, and you'll be issued a SNAP permit. That SNAP permit will be good for about 5 years. And that is necessary for getting your SNAP point of sale equipment. And then these are just our tips on maintaining your SNAP permit. Save copies of everything, especially the SNAP permit. Make sure multiple people know where to find those. In about 5 years, the USDA will both send you an email and a letter in the mail asking you to reauthorize. You must respond to that letter by the deadline, or they will deactivate your SNAP permit and you may have to reapply. Reauthorization is another point that you can update that responsible official. So that's one way to get that done. Also, it's important that you process a SNAP sale at least once a year. So if you go without processing a sale for at least a year, they may consider you a non-redeemer. They'll send you an email, a letter. If you don't respond, they'll deactivate your SNAP permit. And finally, the retailer service center is the main place to call if you have any issues with your SNAP permit. But keep in mind, they'll only speak with that responsible official. Okay, I know that's information overload, so we're almost there. I'll cruise through the equipment piece so that we can get to any questions you have. So as far as the SNAP equipment options go, there's of course private companies that you can purchase equipment from. Some banks and credit unions provide equipment. And then through MarketLink, we are partnered with Novadia Group to provide that Total Pay Go app. So we call it a bring your own device program, meaning that you need to have your own smartphone or tablet to put the app on. This can be someone's personal or business device. For farmers markets, ideally you want something that's dedicated to that purpose at the market instead of bouncing between phones. It just needs to have Bluetooth because that's how you're going to connect your little card reader. And this photo gives you a general idea of your setup. As far as physical equipment, you'll receive, this is the little Snap card reader. It's about the size of a matchbox, and that's going to connect to your phone wirelessly. To run the app, you will need to have either a data plan or connection to Wi-Fi. It doesn't use very much data. Even the busiest markets use less than 1 gig a month. And then also important, the USDA has provided MarketLink grantees a printed receipt waiver, meaning that you don't have to provide printed receipts because the app will offer customers a text or email receipt instead. And it's also important, you may know a lot of SNAP customers depend on those receipts to track their account balance. And you can do a balance inquiry on their card and text or email that to them that way as well. So what the grant covers for the first year, that Bluetooth Snap card reader is yours to keep. And then the grant pays for a 1-year subscription to Total Pay Go. And then that printer waiver, so no cost for printing receipts. And then after the grant year, the cost to keep using that Total Pay Go app is in a subscription fee. So it's either $19.95 a month, and you can just turn that on for the months that you need it, or it's $191.40 for the year. But new to this iteration of the grant, as of October 2023, the USDA added a feature that if you process at least $500 in SNAP sales during your free year, then we can give you another free 1-year subscription to the app. So very excited about that. And then in a nutshell here, there's no per transaction fees for SNAP with using Total Pay Go. Total Pay Go is partnered with Square. Not many markets do process credit cards, but if you wanted to do that, it basically lets you use just one app, Total Pay Go, for both SNAP and credit debit. But Square's credit debit processing fees do apply here. All right. I know, once again, that was a lot of information, so I am happy to, take any questions. And if you, after you digest this, if you think of questions later, you're welcome to send us an email, or you go to our website. You can book a phone appointment with any member of our team. We're happy to just talk through your questions you have about this. There's no pressure to move forward. But yes, thank you all so much for your time. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much, Whitney. And I know we have some questions in the chat, so I'm happy to read them out if you want to go about answering a couple of these.
Sure, sounds good.
So one of our first questions is, we only sell retail produce, but in a low-income neighborhood. Can we still participate in the Senior SNAP program?
Retail produce in a low-income neighborhood. And so by retail produce, do you mean, is that where you buy and resell products from other producers? If so, then you can still qualify for SNAP, but if you're selling at multiple locations, they're going to consider you a delivery route. And that business type classification, it's the more complicated SNAP application process. It can be done, but and I'm happy to give you more information on it, but it's the highest risk for fraud. So the USDA asks for a lot more information for that business type. Unfortunately, they haven't really sussed out a standard delivery route from more like mobile markets type of businesses. And then the other piece here is the Senior SNAP program. I hear, Senior SNAP referred to a lot. And I'm guessing that means the seniors farmers market nutrition program, possibly. And those are managed at the state level. So SNAP is, it's, managed at the federal level. The seniors program is managed at the state level. So each state has their own rules around when and where you can, process those benefits. So you'd want to find out if you qualify and then how you would go about doing that. I hope that's helpful.
And another question is, we've heard from some partners that they've been denied but not offered reasons why. Do you have any support for that situation?
Yeah, I'm guessing this is for the SNAP retailer application. So it can kind of go south in two directions. Either it's an outright denial, and that's less common. But if you are denied, it's because they found that you didn't meet one of their requirements. They usually will spell it out if it's a denial, because they don't let you reapply for 6 months. Much more common is your application getting withdrawn. And that can be for a lot of reasons. And it's most commonly, though, I hate to say slips between the cracks, but this is where, especially if you apply during the busy months, they get overloaded with so many applications. And if you don't keep pushing yours forward and nudging the USDA, their system automatically times out applications that sit there for 45 days. And it can be very frustrating, even if you nudge them, sometimes if the program specialist that's assigned to your application, if they don't get back in there, reset the timer on the system, it can automatically get withdrawn. And it's very frustrating. So anybody that's in that position, we're happy to look, if they have a copy of their SNAP application, we can look at it, see if there's any major red flags. Otherwise, and it's probably just that's what happened, and they just need to unfortunately reapply, as frustrating as that is. Yeah.
And the limitations on sweets and sweets and bakeries that specifically sell sweets, is that for this specific grant, or is that for SNAP in its entirety?
Good question. Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of that catch-22 thing where like sweets can be bought with SNAP benefits. But if that's your primary business, they consider those accessory foods. And that's where your staple foods has to be over 50% of your sales. So if you're mostly doing these accessory foods, you're not gonna qualify as a SNAP retailer. So yeah, you wouldn't qualify as a SNAP retailer, and you wouldn't qualify for the grant, since it doesn't sound like you'd probably be the direct marketing farmer or farmers market category.
Another question from the chat. We had to start over because they continue to refer back to an old FSN number that belonged to a previous owner at the site. Is there any way to disconnect the store from that previous?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we do see this sometimes for farmers markets that will reapply, and yeah, there's an FNS number tied to this market. And when we've seen them do it, they'll cancel the new application to just reopen the old FNS number. So if what they should do is they should just update the old FNS number with the new market's information. It sounds like maybe it was a dead end in the conversation, though. But if you'd like to book a call, I'd be happy to kind of help you dig into what's going on. Usually when we encounter this, we'll make a note on the SNAP application saying this market previously was authorized under this FNS number, and that will help them connect the dots a lot faster. And then that's what they should do, is just, stay in communication with you, but reinstate the old FNS number. They won't disconnect. They like to hold on to the original FNS number, so they won't discontinue that one unless it's an entirely new organization running the market. Then they might, issue a new FNS number.
And for these apps, what kind of customer data do they allow you to collect?
Question. I don't think this is probably the data you're referring to, but I didn't mention, so there's you'll have the Total Pago app and then the online website or the portal that you'll log into, and that's where you'll be able to view and download all of your sales data. It does have like it identifies where and when the transaction was done, the snap card, last 4 digits of the snap card number. You can print, you can look at the receipt for that transaction. But beyond that, that's the limit of what I know that the data that the app collects. I know we live in a world where our data is taken everywhere. So that's a good question. I'll have to check into that on my own.
And these kind of programs, can these be used both at brick and mortar and at a farm booth?
At my brick and mortar, yes. Brick and mortar, yes. If you needed to use it at both locations at the same time, the grant pays for one setup. So the app will only be active on one device at a time. So if these places overlap in operating hours, then you'd have to pay for the second subscription for it to be on a second device. But yeah, as long as you're a direct marketing farmer or you're authorized to accept SNAP at both places, then it is possible.
All right. And we work with the aggregators for food access. Do you support mobile markets at all?
I've been with MarketLink for like 4 years, and we used to help with the mobile market SNAP applications. We've just grown so much now that we just don't have the capacity, but we still will basically do consultation of making sure that you meet those stocking requirements and that it's worth it for you to apply. We can give you an idea of what kind of documents the USDA typically asks for those applications. And we can even be on the phone while you fill it out on your own. But yeah, we don't have the capacity to submit it on your behalf, but we certainly can help support you through that process. And we were recently a part of a conversation where mobile markets are trying to band together to, push some policy around this. So we'd be happy to connect you into that group as well.
Well, awesome. Unless there are any further questions, Whitney, thank you so much for coming to talk to us today. And a recording of this conversation will be sent out a little bit later. If anyone is worried that they, heard about this through a third party and might not have their email in the system, feel free to drop it in the chat, and we'll make sure you get the recording of this and any notes from this meeting, along with links to different people's emails and different things that you might be interested in. And other than that, Whitney, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so nice to meet you all. Best of luck. I hope to hear from you.
Absolutely. And I hope all of you have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.